Welcome back to the shop, everyone. This week's video takes place in 2024, week 28, July 8th to July 14th, and we are just kicking this off with some tuning and some driving. So I think at this point in time, I've reached out and actually gotten some help on the tuning because, as I have mentioned in a couple of videos, I don't really know what I'm doing. So I decided to reach out to someone that I've worked with before and has helped me out and who does remote tuning. And, I'm really glad that I did because he knows a lot more. He can, very quickly and easily get this up to speed a lot quicker. But also just for the peer review on my config file. So we were doing some things and, he was like, telling me like this isn't looking right, this is doing some really weird things, and and then he asked me, okay, well, what parts do you have? And I was like, oh, well, I have the NTKO2 sensors. And he goes, oh, well, you've got the Holley software configured for Bosch. And so right out of the gate, that's going to do a lot of bad things. It's not necessarily bad. I mean, the car ran, but it's not going to run as good as it can. And, I was pretty much intentionally staying out of boost just because, I didn't want to throw a ton more atmosphere at the engine if it wasn't going to be tuned properly. So, it's just a really good idea to even get your stuff peer reviewed by somebody who knows what they're doing if you don't know what you're doing. I do that for work, and I'm glad I did it here. There's a bunch of other stuff that he was able to set up and get figured out probably way quicker than I ever would have. So just great thing. So just gonna drive around a bit, just throttle blade. So this is kind of the process of how it goes. I go out for a drive, I do some data logging. When I get back into the shop, I download the data logs from the ECU. I share them on Google Drive with my tuner. My tuner looks through them, makes some changes to the tune, sends the tune back to me. I put the tune in the car, go for a drive. And I'm talking with him. I'm saying, what do you want me to do in the car? What do you want to see? What do I need to do? And, he tells me, this is what I need you to do. And if there's any sort, if I don't understand, I just clarify. And I said, so this is what you want me to do. You want me to go out, get up to this RPM, and then just mat it. And he goes, yep, that'd be perfect. So, okay, yeah, go out and do that. And just rinse and repeat. I think I worked with him and, had a bunch of revisions. And after we got a bunch of the stuff that just wasn't working right, figured out. If you've watched my Instagram at all, car runs great. It's solid. It is power. Like there's tons of power in this, especially with the Pro Charger. It's a fun car to drive. It's loud in the car. I need to redo the exhaust. I need sound deadening. I need to do a proper interior. But all those things, regardless of all those things, it's super fun to drive. Man, is it fun to drive. So just did that feedback loop. So jumping back in the car, we're going to go for another drive here. So in this case, that was just a super, super short drive. The car was running like a bag of crap. It wouldn't come back to idle. It was wanting to stall out. And then I looked at my phone after I'd gotten the tune, and my tuner said, okay, what I need you to do is also open up the throttle blade a bit more. So I'm going to jump out of the car. I'm just downloading the data log. I'll throw that up to him quickly, but you'll see me checking under the car because it's still leaking power steering fluid, I think. And, oh no, the front end is scraping on the ground as I'm backing out of the shop. So I'm putting some paint on my intercooler just to see if it is scraping. So I put paint on there and then that paint is gone and it means I'm scraping. But in any case, so I pop the hood, and you're going to see me grab some Allen keys, go over to the passenger side where the throttle blade is. I'm going to adjust the throttle blade. I'm going to need to do a TPS auto reset, and then I can go back out for another drive and see if it's any better. So again, just a super duper short drive, and it wasn't happy, so just right back to the shop. So yeah, so we're just going to do some more test drives here and just kind of go through that feedback loop with my tuner for a bit. So yeah, this time as I come into the shop, you can see the top left caution light is on, or warning lights, and that's because my fuel pressure is low, and that's, you know, I think I was just running it low on fuel, and especially when the car is angled, all the fuel wants to run to the front of the tank. So that light was on, and now in a moment after I pull the tune, I send the tune off. I'm going to go check the fuel, because if you run it low on fuel, that's going to happen. And when I go to check the fuel, what happens is I undo the cap on the cell, and when I let it up, you know, there's a vacuum. There's a bunch of air trying to get into the cell. So when I open this, I'm like, oh, okay, it's time. I need to put a proper vent on this tank so that it can, you know, it can suck new air in as the fuel is going out. So what you got to think about it is, right now I've got the fuel system. There's gas in the tank that runs to a pump, which goes to the front of the car, and some of that gas comes back. Well, what's happening is when that pump is sucking fuel and the engine is using it, now there is less fuel overall in the system, and so the volume inside the cell is kind of shrinking. It's becoming a vacuum because there's no way for air to get into there and replenish it and fill up the volume that's left. So yeah, so I need to put a proper vent on the fuel cell, so that's what I'm doing now. I'm going to have it go off of the top back left fitting, go down under the car, over top of the pump, over to the back right of the bumper. I'll put a fitting there, and then I'll just coil it up. This just gives me a ton of space in the line, and it'll work perfectly. I'm sorry about this terrible dark video here. I should have grabbed the light on the ground, but you know, the thing is, I can see it clearly with my eyes, but obviously the camera's not so good, so you get a not so great exposure here. And yeah, but anyways, I'm just drilling out that bumper. I'm just going to put a fitting in there. This isn't an actual fuel line, so you know, there's really nothing to leak all that much. But I do want to keep it away from the exhaust as much as I can. And I know with this coming winter, I'm going to redo this fuel system. I'm going to redo the exhaust. So all of this stuff is going to change anyways. So this is just temporary for me to drive around this summer. And once again, the battery's died because I left the power on, so I'm just gonna throw this battery on charge while I'm still working on the fuel vent. So I ran into an issue where with the hose ends on the hose, it won't clear the strap that I have holding up the fuel cell. So I need to throw a couple of jacks under the fuel cell, undo the bolts, pull that strap out, and then just with a grinder modify the strap and put a little bit of a divot into it so that the fuel line and hose end can pass by it. Really not a big deal, just gotta do it. So the last thing that I'm doing is I'm just throwing a little filter on the end of this line, and the reason why I'm doing that is I don't know if it's really gonna help a whole lot, but I don't want to get any crap into that line. I mean, that is going in up to my fuel cell, although the chance of any dirt getting all the way through all those fittings and then up to the fuel cell, like gravity's not really going to allow that, but you know, whatever, it's not a bad thing to have it. But the main thing is, if any fuel vapors are leaking and the exhaust, because the exhaust is in that general vicinity, if for whatever reason those fuel vapors decided to ignite, my hope and goal is that that fireball would stop at the fuel filter and not continue on past it and all the way up the line into the fuel cell, because that would be really bad. So that's why I'm putting a filter on the end of this line. Now this is the most jank ass crap I have ever done, and do I hate it? Yes. Do I care that I've done it? No, because I know I'm going to redo it. And again, the whole goal is to just drive this around this summer. Now that I've actually been driving it around, you know, my original plan was to make sure everything was perfect, do all the body work, da-da-da-da-da, but now I realize that's stupid. Get the car out, get it driving, get it on the road, have some fun with it for, you know, 3-4 months. Then you can bring it back into the shop and upgrade and do the next bit of changes. So the plan for the winter is I've got some suspension stuff in the back I want to do, make it a little bit more sturdy. The stock torque boxes on these foxbodies were known to be a weak point, so I'm going to replace them with something stronger. I'm going to do all the body work in the back of the car. I've got a lot of welding, a lot of grinding, a lot of just work in the back of this car. And finally, I want to redo how I have mounted the fuel cell to the car. Right now, I welded aluminum tabs at the top of the tank, and it's just kind of sitting on plates, and I don't like it. It's a lot of weight when the cell's full of fuel to be sitting on those 4 aluminum tabs mounted high up on the car. So I'm going to redo the structure in the back. I'm going to have a couple of bars come down, build a almost build a frame around the fuel cell off of the bar, and potentially off the back cage bar, and then potentially off the frame. I'll figure that out when I get to it. But I am redoing that whole thing. I'm going to modify the cell. Just, yeah, ton of work that I'm going to do in the back end this summer, along with all the body work, get that going. And so with all that, you know, I want to do all that work, finish off some body work, paint the underside, the back of the car while I'm in there. And then, you know, if I get time, I might do some more body work, some more whatever. But then next year, I want to be able to drive it all summer, right? Like from, you know, May right through August, I want to be able to drive it. And then the same thing, bring it back into the shop. You know, maybe strip the interior entirely out, paint the interior, do stuff like that. Well, actually, if I'm doing body work, I'm going to strip the interior out anyways, but whatever, it's fine. So yeah, what am I doing here? I am fixing the power steering. Okay, so this power steering has been leaking like a bastard ever since I put this brand new line on. So what I'm doing here is I took the new line off out of the power steering pump, and then what I'm just cleaning everything up a little bit right now because it's filthy. But what I actually end up doing is I go over to my old power steering pump and I look at the line, or sorry, I go and I look at my old rack, the old power steering rack that I still have. And I look at the line on it just to compare. Right now, what I was just doing there is I took my inspection camera to look inside the orifice of the power steering outlet just to make sure there was like no O-ring stuck in there or something. But yeah, so I'm looking at the line now, and then, you know, it's whatever. So I go and I take a look at the old line, and I'm like, huh, no wonder why this is leaking. It's 2 completely different styles. So yeah, so I'm just going to pull the old line out of the old rack, and we are going to put that onto the new rack and see if we get a leak. So I do a little bit of a side-by-side here on the old hose and the new hose. The picture is up on my Instagram because you can't really see it too clearly here. But yeah, they are vastly different. And then when I looked up the part numbers, I found out that LMR sent me a power steering hose for a 94, 95 Mustang, not a 79 to a 93. So... it is completely different, and unfortunately there's not a whole lot I can do about that. I haven't contacted them yet. I do still need to contact them, but yeah, just gonna swap out the lines and see if we can hold some power steering fluid in this. So one thing that we are doing here is we are going to swap the O2 sensor from side to side. Now the reason being, one of the O2 sensors is not reading all that accurately. So I want to swap it side to side, and then we can see what's going on. Now that I think about it, that's supposed to be that side, that side, that. Yeah, so anyways, yeah, so the O2 reading is super erratic, so I'm just going to swap the O2 sensors side to side by keeping them plugged into the same bank, just to see if just to see what's going on with it, and see if there's a big exhaust leak or if it's the O2 sensor. Okay, so with all that stuff done, battery charged, O2 sensors swapped, power steering line changed, we are going to throw a new tune in the car. We are going to go for a couple of drives. We're going to do that feedback loop with the tuner a couple of times. So we were just out for a nice little drive there, and now we are just grabbing the tune. I'm actually grabbing the data log. We'll send that over to the tuner. And I want to say at this point in time, it's really late in the evening, so I'm not really expecting anything back at this point. So I'm going to move over to something that I can do. It's something I've been waiting years and years and years and years and years to do, and that is switch out this driver's side window regulator. So what happened was years ago, I don't know how it happened, but I broke a screw off in the window regulator, and then I tried drilling it out, and then I tried tapping it, and then the tap broke in the hole. And since taps are extremely hard, there was just really no way for me to get it out. So what I eventually ended up doing is I just had vice grips locked onto the window regulator. And that's how I rolled my window up and down for years, is just with a pair of vice grips on it. But my good friend Kevin, he was getting rid of his old car. And so I was able to sneak the window regulator out of it before it went to car heaven. And I am finally getting around to doing this. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to get the rivets out, and it's a real pain in the ass to drill these things out. And I got to be careful because I don't want the drill bit to go like just all the way through the car and then hit the glass, because that would be really bad. So I gotta be careful. The rivet's kind of spinning, and I'm having a tough time getting the first one out. And I start going down the same road on the second one. I was like, oh, maybe I can just chisel it off. No, I got to drill it out. And drilling it out, like, these rivets, I don't know what the hell they used to build these rivets, but the drill bits just really don't want to drill through this. So I eventually say, okay, fuck this. I'm not going to waste my time. Grab a grinder, just grind the heads down off of them, pop out the middles with the punch, and Bob's your uncle. Super easy. Should have done that in the first place. Another one of my classically great angles where you can't see anything other than just my fucking back or my hat. But anyways, I got the grinder out. You can see some sparks there. So I've ground those heads flat, punched the middles out, and then I can just chisel the or drill the rest out, and easy. Super easy. Should have done that in the first place. So it does take a little bit of work to get this window regulator out. I gotta manually lift the window all the way up, and then I can kind of slide it out. It's fun. I mean, it wasn't too hard. Once I realized I needed to slide the window up, I just slid it up, and then the whole regulator comes out of this big gaping hole there. And then I ease the window down because I don't want it to slam down, because that might cause it to break, which would be really, really bad. So just kind of hold it and let it down smooth. And now what I'm going to do is where the gears are for this regulator, I'm just going to take my grinder. There's a bunch of grease on here, so I'm just going to clean it up real nice and easy. Not going too crazy with the grinder. And then I'm going to take some grease that I have and then put it back on the window regulator, work around a bit, and just, hopefully that gives me longevity out of this window regulator, or as long as I'm alive and as long as the car's alive, this window regulator will be good. And then we will just do the reverse to install it in the car. You got to be careful. At the bottom of the window, there's a little square channel for the window regulator to slide into. So once you get the window regulator into the door, you need to let the window down, and then you can slide that little square piece into the channel, and then you can put the rivets back in. These are 1/4 inch by 3/16 grip, I think, something like that. I just bought them off Amazon, if I recall correctly. yeah, you can kind of see in the picture there's that little square channel, and on the window regulator there's a little square nylon bushing that just slides into there. If you ever did this job, you'd be able to see what I'm talking about, and it'd be super simple. So now that I have the window regulator in, I'm just going to do a tiny little bit of cleanup, and I need to find the handle. So I have a handle for this. It's somewhere. I know I've seen it and had it out recently. It was in one of my parts bins, so I'm just going to look for it. I just grab the part bin that I think it was in and check in there, and it's not in there anymore. So I'm like, okay, if it's not on there, it's probably on my rolling cart, so look on there. Still can find it, and then yeah, I had left it on the back bench, which makes sense because I knew I was going to need it soon. So I had already looked, I think, but I was using my man eyes, and now I found it. So this handle comes with a screw, and as I find out very quickly, this screw does not work on that window regulator. They are different sizes. So I'm grabbing out the screw from the passenger side just to see what thread it is, because if I know what thread the passenger side is, chances are it's the same as the driver's side. I can quickly test that, but I can find out what thread it is very easily using my thread checker. So I've got this little strip here that has a bunch of essentially nuts and bolts that I can screw this the good screw into to find out exactly what thread pitch it is, and then I can go to my screw bin and hopefully have something. So if I recall correctly, it ended up being like 832 is what I needed. So I had a couple of just cheap 832 Robertson screws. I will replace that because it's kind of janky, but I mean, I don't care, it works. The handle's gonna go on. So with that handle on, this window is doing something it hasn't done in 10 plus years. And man, that is fucking exciting, let me tell you. So something that's been bothering me, and you can see it in this picture, is this car is filthy. It is dirty. So I'm just gonna roll it out of the shop and give it a quick little bath. Nothing too crazy. Some water, a little bit of car wash that I've had for years, microfiber towel, and we're just gonna give this thing a bath and get it cleaned up. I'm gonna do my best to not have too much water come in that sunroof because, well, I don't want to soak any of the electronics or the seats or anything. So we're just gonna be careful. Oh, just look at this as it rolls in. Nice, clean car. Would you look at that? And unfortunately, with that, that is all the time that we have for this week. So as always, if you've stuck around this long, I'd like to thank you for viewing, and we'll see you in the next one.